Hey guys, it's your boy Wolfie. Now Atlas comes out in SMITE in around 2 months. He's a brand new Guardian with a completely unique playstyle. Kudos to the high-res team who created this guy. He looks awesome. He's not 100% unique in terms of MOBAs in general, but for SMITE, it is a completely different Guardian. He's gonna stand out from the rest of the cast, and I love the fact that he's added into the game. He's live on the PTS right now if you want to try him out. Or you can just watch this video. I'm about to jump in the jungle practice, try out his abilities, give my opinion on him, talk about his strengths and weaknesses, maybe run through a build or two and answer a couple of questions that I know I have about the character that I'm pretty sure you guys have. Let's get into that now. All right, so here's Atlas. Big, brolic Guardian that's carrying the world on his shoulders. Let's go into his abilities real quick. First, let's talk about his auto attacks. He's got a standard little auto attack swing. They actually hit pretty hard. They're 1.25 per swing, but they're really, really slow. And the final hit is AoE, right? So Atlas has a weird passive. It's basically a meter, and you gain the meter by doing damage to either minions or gods. Obviously, hitting gods is going to give you more meter than hitting regular NPCs and minions. So you want to kind of hit as many gods as possible, right? So this is what it looks like when you're building it up. And when you hit multiple people, as you see, it grows really fast. So you want to kind of hit as many gods as possible. This does work with your abilities too. It's not just auto attacks. But what changes is your next auto attack is an AoE that has a little bit of CC on top of it. Is it game breaking? Does it completely make the character? No, it's kind of just a nice little sided added effect that you can play around. I love things that add player interaction, so I love this passive. Not because it's really good, but it makes you want to use it in a team fight correctly. And that's when I think abilities are awesome. All right, so let's start talking about what makes this character different, right? But similar to other characters in other games. Okay, baby, I know you're watching the clip right now. This is when you take a picture of Oriana and put it on the screen and cut this part out. What? You don't watch them? Now let's get into Atlas's other abilities. Atlas's 2 is basically like a Susanoo pull. An AoE pull with a little bit of a delay, which is awesome. The great part about it is if you're close enough, Atlas picks you up and can direct you around and toss you into a wall, his team, away from his team. This is fantastic. And this works in AoE. This is great. It's a non-ultimate ability that can toss enemies into giant abilities. It's fantastic. Now here comes the fun part of the kit. Remember how I told you his abilities change when his 1 is deployed? It's Oriana ult. And there's 2 circles in this ability. There's 1 circle towards the center that will actually pull things and actually toss them again, and the outer part, which is just a pull. This is where the slow on the 1 comes from. It lasts for 2 seconds and is a max of 20%. It's supposed to slow them so they can't run out of it, right? So you throw it in, cast a 2, and it just guarantees them in. Now, I'm pretty sure this orb always throws the enemy to you, so that should make it pretty easy for your teammates to understand where they have to place abilities. It's an AoE, it's great, a lot of CC, and it pops up and throws them back into you, which is cool because you can just do all sorts of things like this, and you can still pulsate. Mind you, you can't pulsate while the 2 is going off. You're kind of animation locked. Right? So that's what that is. It's good. It's awesome. It's something to think about. This is literally an ultimate in another game, and I got a feeling this ability is going to be absolutely nuts. Okay? Let's talk about Atlas's 3. Now, Atlas's 3 is a little weird. It's his highest damaging ability. It's probably going to be important to land if you're trying to do any forms of damage. Now, his 3 is a little unique. It's literally a run. And if you run past your teammates, it will cleanse them of slows and speed them up. And every time you pass by your teammate, It will increase your movement speed and increase the slow when you hit the enemy player. It starts at around, I don't know what it is, but I know it caps out at 75%. I think the slow is 25% at the start, even though it's kind of written funny, but I think it's 25% at start. Oh no, it's a 35% movement speed. Ha! God damn, reading is not my forte. So it goes all the way up to a 75% movement speed slow based on how many teammates you run by. It's really nice. It's awesome. It hits pretty hard, and it's probably a big part of your combo. I can see something like this happening. Right? Cool. No problem. Now, let's talk about his ultimate. Now, his ultimate's kind of nuts. His ultimate is Omega Raw Beam is what I want to call it, right? You drop a circle, it does pulsating damage, and then when it fires again, it just goes across the universe. Yanis, eat your heart out. Damn. Now, just to answer a few questions, the pulsating does damage. Yes, you can toss it out whenever you want. You can just drop it and then press it again. But there's an important part of the ult. It has something called radiation. And as it's max, it goes from 5 to 7 stacks. Every single stack applies protection reduction and power reduction. So this turns out to 7 times 5% protection reduction. That's 35% penetration for your team. That's nuts. Meanwhile, reducing their power by 14%. So this ultimate might do damage, and the beam might be really pretty to look at, and that's what you really think it is. But it's actually a debuffing ability to make your team be able to fight properly. The funny part about this ability is that you think the beam is the main part of the ability when it's actually the pulsating stacks. That's the real part of the ability. You want to get as many stacks from the enemy players as possible, as opposed to just landing them, hitting them with the nuke. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that probably confuses newer players. I kind of wish there was more visual to that to just let people know, but it's a really cool ability. And you can see how this character's kit just works together. Maybe you might want to throw this in there, then pop your ult, and then do the 2, right? Try to keep them in as long as possible. Maybe you might want to do the 2 first, pull them in, make sure they're there, and then use your ult. I'm gonna see how long it takes your 2 to cast, because apparently your 2 is animation locked. So that kind of changes a lot of the playstyle, and I kind of feel like it hurts the character. It feels kind of weird. So pull them in. Yeah, you can't. So in case you were wondering, you can't cast anything while that 2 is going on, including when the character is just picked up. That could potentially be seen as the negative of using the 2 in the center, that it just animation locks you. That's interesting. We learned something new even when we're doing these little things. All right, so after looking at his kit, I would assume you guys know where his kit is going by now. You are basically just a titan for CC. You are making the enemy's life a living Hades. Yeah, I said that. I'm not going to apologize for it. But I would like to remind you guys of something that is very important. Besides the whole ult situation about how you want to get the stacks, there's something really important for people to know. Your 2 is an animation lock even when you throw the orb out. For example, when you throw the orb out and you use your 2, you won't be able to press other abilities. As you can see, I was pressing my 3 the whole time and it did not work. When you do this, you're not going to be able to use other abilities. You won't be able to use your escape. Just be careful when you do that. That is a commitment when you press that button. So that means that the combo is not going to be throw your 1, use your 2, then use your other abilities. It's probably going to be something more along the lines of throw your 1, land the 3, and then use your 2, and then that could be go on from there. Or you might want to use your 1, use your 3, then your ult, then your 2, because you cannot combo into that correctly. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to use your 1 into your 2. That just means if you're by yourself and you're trying to do maximum damage, using your 1 and your 2 isn't the optimal setup. Sometimes as a support, you just have to use abilities not in the regular rotation because it helps your team the most. So just like when you play Athena and you taunt first instead of using your 3, then your taunt, because you're trying to set up for your team or peel for your team. This is kind of the same scenario. Use it based on the situation. Don't just use your 2 outright. If you want my opinion, I think you're going to be using your 1, then your 3, then your ult, and then your 2. And the reason why you want to do it like that is so you can get as many stacks as possible and not be animation locked. Also, remember, your 3 is also a slow, so it'll probably be easier to land your 1 and then your 3, and then they can guarantee to be hit by the 2 because they won't be able to run out. Remember, your main focus for your ultimate is to get as many stacks as possible, especially in the team fight. It's not just the laser. And the other parts of your kit is make sure you get your CC off and everything else. Also, don't forget that I know I just told you to use your 3 for burst damage. Remember, your 3 is also going to cleanse people's like movement speed debuffs and give them movement speed to help them get into the fight. So use your kit intelligently, but as an SM orc at the same time. Y'all know what SM orc is. Just use your kit and play the game, right? Just be careful that he does have animation locks and he does have things that can get you killed. All right. Also, he doesn't have an escape when he's getting surrounded because your 3 stops the first target hit. So be careful about that. It's time for the fun part of the video. So remember how I told you that how his 1 doesn't scale with on hit effects? Right? It scales with attack speed. DJ's Atlas skin incoming. I'm ready. It's probably gonna be the best one. It's actually pretty significant damage too. That's fantastic. I love that. I can see that as being a build, maybe a fun build for arena. Don't be doing that in my rank games. I will yell at you. I will ban you from my chat. Don't do that in my rank games. But in my casuals, by all means, it's hilarious. Let's talk about this character real quick. I'm gonna have to restart this training mode. Now that we restarted the jungle practice, let's talk about the thing that worries me a little bit about Atlas. Atlas has really long cooldowns. He has an ability that starts off at 15 but ends at 13. And then his next 2 abilities are 16-second cooldowns. Those are very long, especially for them not being a leap. Those are very, very long cooldowns. This is what makes me worried if this character is going to be viable or not, because these abilities are it screams to me that he dominated playtest and he got nerfed right before release. I 100% expect these cooldowns to be lowered just a little bit, not to like 9 seconds or anything, but I would like to see like gravity pull, maybe a 13-second cooldown, kinetic charge, maybe a 14 or a 13 or something like that. Maybe, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm crazy, but they look really long. What that makes me think is the fact that we're probably going to be prioritizing cooldown reduction a little more on this character than other characters, because you really want those cooldowns to be a little bit lower because you want as much CC as possible as a support. In terms of leveling abilities, I'm thinking you're going to max your 1 first purely off the fact that it lowers the cooldown, which is huge. But remember that your 2 and your 3 do way more damage. I just noticed, now that we got towards the end of the video, that there's 2 forms of damage on his gravity pull. And we can go test that out right now. I'm pretty sure that means that they take 2 forms if they're closer to the center. Let's see. The pull, and yep. So I don't know what you're going to level first. I don't know what you're going to max first. Your 2 and your 3 kind of do a decent amount of damage. That's 320 base or 300 base, but one of them is easier to land than the other. But your 1 is the most accessible ability for you to use on cooldown. I'm not really sure what you're going to max first. I can see a world where you max your 1 first into your 2. And I can also see a world where you put only 1 point in your 1, max your 2, and then max your 3 after to max the amount of damage you do. I don't know what the best option is right now. I couldn't tell you. It looks like the explosion damage at the end with the little pulsating doesn't actually scale with the level. I think it scales with your level, not the ability level. Just from reading that, that's what it says to me. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still leaning towards maxing your 1 first. I think that cooldown reduction is probably the best thing, and your main clear is probably going to be the pulsating damage. Just from experience of playing the game, but I could be extremely wrong. You never know. I might just be completely off my rocker. But I'm definitely on point with saying that you're going to need cooldown reduction and as much as you possibly can get, which means that Pridewin or Pridwin, however you pronounce it, is going to be a staple on this character. You're going to need this item. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a little more, if you start seeing a little more Shoguns instead of Talisman of Energy, just because you want the extra 10% cooldown reduction on this character. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. In terms of him being a Guardian and a support, I still think the standard support build is probably the best, especially for newer players. Sentinel's Gift, Benevolence, War Flag, whatever you want to choose. Personally, I go Sentinel's Gift or War Flag because I think the extra early protections and HP makes you stronger, and it allows you to actually fight against whoever you're against and potentially win fights that you wouldn't be able to, as opposed to going Benevolence, where if anyone has any protections, you kind of just give up the early game when you have Benevolence, from my experience. So I personally like going Sentinel's Gift. That's just me. I play a little... I play the dad role when I play support. I'm protected everybody, right? So Gauntlet of Thieves, I think, is a must-buy. Item is nuts on every Guardian. Any support, honestly. The item is nuts. Here's where things get a little interesting. I normally get maybe one of these items over here for some extra HP or some movement speed, but I'm not sure this character needs it. Also, it's really important to have cooldown reduction, but I don't really like getting Relic Dagger because it doesn't have prod on it. I kind of really like going Wingblade. So this is kind of a hard decision here. All 3 of these are viable, and I really highly suggest getting them in this slot. And my method for this and my reason for this is because not only it helps you position in team fights and move around and catch up to teammates or help out teammates from being dived, etc., but it allows you to roam the map faster. And as a support, I'm rarely ever in lane. I'm always roaming. I'm usually the flex character. I'm moving around based on the situation. So I personally like almost any one of these items in this scenario. Let me know what you guys think. I'm probably still going to default to the Wingblade just so I can have some more magic protection early, because you don't buy a lot of magic protection early from my experience. But yes, that's how I feel about it. Any one of these items is probably useful in this scenario, and I think they're all good, and I would suggest any one of them. So for argument's sake, we're just going to buy Windblade in this scenario. Again, any one of these is fine. I normally put Sovereignty here. This character is a little weird, though. Sovereignty is a nuts item, and I think you should buy it almost every single game. Pretty much every single game. But in this scenario, we're running into a situation that I was talking about before. His cooldowns are extremely long. This is the only character I'd probably consider this on. You might want to pick up Pridwin in this scenario and then go for Sovereignty after. It's definitely a possibility. Normally I swap them. Normally I'll buy, I will buy Sovereignty first, and then I'll go into Pridwin after, or based on the game, I'll buy something, right? But I really feel like this is going to be swapped based on the game or how the character feels. If you really, really, really feel like you need the cooldown reduction, I'm highly going to suggest getting the Pridwin first. But if you really need to be tanky, there's very rare items that are tankier than Sovereignty, and Sovereignty helps your team stay alive. It might just be better to tough it out and learn how to manage your long cooldowns than go on a Pridwin, but it really just depends on how the game is feeling. Because you might use your CC, you might use your abilities, and it might just not be enough. You might just really need them to come up faster. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. But the last item, normally people are usually going something like Talisman of Energy, but I really think for this character, you're gonna start seeing a little more Shogun Kasari or even Genji's Guard to give you those cooldown reduction while still helping the team. Genji's Guard is like a pseudo Chronos pendant for Guardians, and Shogun's Kasari is another aura item with some cooldown reduction on it. So any one of these are fine, and I understand that Talisman of Energy is probably better, but again, I think this character is really based on his cooldowns, and he's really gonna need cooldown reduction. I can't stress it enough how important cooldown reduction is gonna be on this character. Like after with the full build, let's buy a potion. So we have max CDR, and now you have every ability under 10 seconds. That should be huge for playing the character. You have to move around more. You can throw your orbs more. Remember, your one also doesn't go on cooldown until you pull it to you. So that's a part of like the kit's cooldown on top of it. So this is just my opinion. I think this is probably the best support build in the game, just from like experience with it. I know the pros don't use it, but for player error and everything else, for you and me, we're not the mechanical gods of the game. This build is nuts. You could try it out. Mix and match the build, try new things, get rid of some items, try to put cooldown earlier. Let me know what you guys come up with. I would love to see it. But from my experience, I think that this is the solid build, and I think this will still work on this character. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys like the character, let me know. Try him out in the test realm. Give me your opinion. Maybe come up with some bugs I don't know about. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. All right, guys, let me know what you think about the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, yo, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and ring that little notification bell to let you guys know when I put more videos up. Leave some comments in the section, bro. I want to see what you guys think. Tell me your opinion on the character. Do you think he looks cool? Do you think he's fun to play? Do you think he's boring? Do you think he's underpowered, overpowered? You guys find any buffs, any like unique, ridiculous builds that I don't know about, that I didn't think about? Yo, let me know in the comments. I want to see that kind of stuff. And don't forget, you guys can check me out on Twitch. I stream between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. for SMITE, and after that I start doing variety games. Follow me on Twitter, join my Discord. It's all good. I'll see you guys later, my guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You guys have a good day. Happy holidays. Deuces.